A very big welcome to my July garden tour with seasonal and year-round tips that I've learned over the years of gardening. And I hope that some of these tips will be helpful, if not all of them, to you in your gardening journey. Tip number one is to plant for diversity in all the plants that you choose for your garden. Choose plants with different foliage and different flower heads and really mix things up. Different heights and widths and even movement in a plant can make the garden seem much more interesting. Our world would be really boring if everybody looked, acted, and talked the same, and so it is with the garden. Use a lot of different types of plants and shapes, sizes, colors, and it really makes it tremendously more appealing. Dark-hued plants placed around a border or a pathway can make that space seem much more intimate. And the opposite is true too. Lightly colored plants can make a space seem really vast, and it really tricks the eye. I found this to be very true, and I placed some purple fountain grass in strategic places around the spiral and around the walkway, and it really makes a difference. It makes the space seem so inviting, personal, and intimate. Now, obviously, you don't have to use purple fountain grass for this purpose. You can use other darkly colored plants as well. I've used dark-toned aeoniums, and this works great too. Intimate areas in the garden are very inviting and draw a person into that area, and it's just so inviting and gives you a sense of warmth and peace. Mix it up in your garden and plant perennials, annuals, succulents, and cactus if you're able to in your climate. Diversity in a garden creates interest, and it's really important in a garden, and I've really learned that over the years, and it's just such a key thing for a garden. Tip number two is plant anchor plants. Now, these are plants that I call anchor plants, and they're perennials, evergreens, as well as cactus and succulents. In other words, these are year-long plants. They survive long-term, and these plants are going to be anchors for your garden and going to create long-lasting structure to your garden. In California, our climate allows us to plant a vast array of different anchor plants, and we're really blessed. Because year-round interest for the eye is really important visually for a garden. If I was starting a garden from scratch, this is where I would start with my anchor plants. Which leads us to accent with annuals. Now, annuals are plants that only live for a short time, usually one season. These might be violas or cosmos. Any kind of annuals are annuals that you're not going to see for very long in your garden. So you enjoy them while they last, and you plant them for the great color that it adds to the garden. And you just plant those in between your anchor plants. And this allows you to change up your garden from season to season. This brings fresh color, fresh change to the garden, and it helps it to be less boring and less all the same all the time. So use those annuals and plug them in different colors and different shapes and sizes, and you're going to really find that your garden just pops, and it just makes it interesting all year round. So change out the annuals from season to season. Keep your garden fresh. Make use of big containers. Get some really nice containers for your garden. You can have some like these in my garden that are more for more annuals and colorful splashes in one piece of the garden. Or you can add those containers of brightly colored big containers like I have in the spiral section of the garden. And this helps to retain color in the garden all year long. And I use yuccas in my big containers in the spiral. For this reason, they're there all year round, and it actually adds more structure to the garden. This really makes a difference when all your annuals have done their thing and you need to take them out because they only last so long. Then you're left with more structure and more color from the brightly colored pots. My favorites in the garden are red and blue pots. But you can just mix it up and use whatever colors appeal to you, or black and white or gray, whichever suits the type of style that you want to achieve in your garden. Don't be tied down to typical plants that you see in an ornamental garden. Get a little exploratory and really mix things up. And think outside of the box when it comes to adding different elements to your garden, different plants that you wouldn't normally think of as being pretty. I've been really blessed to be able to see beautiful gardens around the world, both in the United States and across in Northern Ireland and Ireland, some really beautiful gardens. And I've gotten a lot of inspiration in some of the plant choices that they've used there. Things like dill, which I've added to my own garden, and thyme. These are really beautiful flowering plants that you wouldn't normally think of as ornamental in a flower garden. And artichokes. Artichokes have some of the most beautiful blooms, and some people don't even know it. They just grow them for the veg, but they're gorgeous blooms. And the foliage, the leaves are huge and beautiful. And I tell you what, in the springtime, they're one of my favorite plants in the garden for ornamental purposes. Asparagus has really pretty foliage, feathery, and just gorgeous. So really mix things up too in this way. Just plant different kinds of plants that you wouldn't normally think of in a pretty garden, in an ornamental garden. Plant different things and really think outside the box. I'm always on the lookout now for beautiful plants that can both be eaten and enjoyed for their aesthetic beauty. Which reminds me, get out of your garden. And what I mean by that is get out there and explore other gardens, both public gardens and private gardens, gardens around the world. Explore independent local nurseries. You can get a lot of creative, really different ideas from all of these sources, and it's really important to get out there and find inspiration for your own garden. And those local nurseries have a lot of plants that maybe you're not familiar with. Get out there and look at all the choices that you have for your garden. This tip has been invaluable to me. Getting out there and discovering. Really important to find out what you have in you as a gardener when you get out there and find your inspiration for your own garden. Exploring other gardens and local nurseries has really made a huge impact in my garden and in finding inspiration and wanting to inspire other people to garden. And in fact, that's the prime reason that I wanted to start my own gardening YouTube channel, because as inspiring as all these places and people I've met through gardening, it just inspires me to want to inspire other people to garden. It's such a passion, and I'm hoping to pass that on to other people and make your lives just so much more enriched. A garden is nothing without wildlife. Enhance your garden by choosing plants that attract wildlife, like bees and butterflies and birds and frogs and moths and all kinds of critters that into your garden that are going to enhance the beauty of your garden and up the entertainment value. Hummingbirds are some of my favorite visitors to the garden, and they're such entertainers. I could sit for hours watching hummingbirds. They're just so amusing, and they have such great character. Really a lot of fun. And so I plant salvias and sage, flowering plants that are going to attract those hummingbirds into my garden and help feed them too. So it's a win-win. They get what they need, and I get what I need. And Larry the lazy cat enjoys the wildlife in the garden too. So plant lavenders, plant salvias, plant sage, plant wisteria. There's tons of plants that attract pollinators and wildlife to your garden. So make it really wildlife friendly by providing places that invite them in. Get bird baths and bee baths. Get fountains, because that wildlife is going to help sustain your garden. It really makes a big difference. Bring the beneficial bugs into your garden and provide for them. And it's going to be a winning situation for both of you. And believe me, if you plant the right plants, you don't need to buy hummingbird feeders. There are plants like salvias and sages and wisteria, tons of plants that hummingbirds love, and you don't even need to buy a single hummingbird feeder. In fact, aloe blooms are some of the favorites of hummingbirds in my garden. They love the blooms of aloes, and they're at those aloes all the time. So get a little wild for wildlife in your garden. Tip number 8 is make use of your local Master Gardeners program. Master Gardeners programs can be found throughout the United States of America and in parts of Canada. Free community classes to learn gardening, plant sales, and helplines are all available through the Master Gardeners programs. Now go out there and put these tips to use in your own garden, and I think that you'll find that these tips really work. There's a link in the description of the video to Master Gardeners program where you can find out more information and find a Master Gardeners program in your area. And there's a link in the video description to TJ Mayer Patthana Garden in Ireland. TJ wrote a book called Grounded in the Garden, and I found it really inspirational and the tips really useful in the garden to create a beautiful garden. I hope you'll check that out too. If you found any of these tips helpful, please like, share, and comment, and we will see you next time in an upcoming video. Thanks for watching.